Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Women Are Worthy show. Oh, I am so excited about tonight's show because y'all, I need this. This ain't for y'all. This is for me. When I said I need therapy, I didn't say therapy. I said therapy. I need therapy. So let me introduce our beautiful, talented, wonderful, passionate guest. Her name is Dr. Ebony. Dr. Ebony is passionate about helping women survivors thrive in trauma recovery. Baby, that's me right now. She is specifically trained to work with a variety of clients with issues related to depression, anxiety, and other things. She also What I love about her is she helps women to develop skills that increase their effectiveness in interpersonal interactions, including communications and asking for getting what they want and when they need it. Y'all heard me, okay? So this woman is phenomenal. So the Women Are Worthy show, Jacqueline Charles, myself, we welcome the phenomenal, the sought after, well needed Dr. Ebony.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate that.
Ooh, well, see, I want everyone to know you guys are going to take a peek into my therapy session, okay?
So we have to tell people that this isn't therapy, for real, for real.
Ooh.
My license will get in trouble.
Okay.
We're going to have a conversation about therapy.
Well, okay. We're gonna have a conversation about therapy, okay? Therapy, okay? So, Dr. Ebony, we talked about something off air, and I'd like to bring it on. I think this is the perfect time because right now people are lost. It's going to be better tomorrow. It's going to be better. There's so much going on. We have what's going on in Texas, Louisiana. We still have COVID. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk to you about that and ask your opinion. What should we do? Because Dr. Ebony, I'm all tapped out.
Whew. That's one thing we're going to have to do is keep breathing. But you bring up a very good point. We are having to navigate a lot. Typically, when we're going through rough times, we're going through rough times in isolation or a couple at a time. We're not really bombarded with so much trauma at one time. So it is very difficult to know what to do. So honestly, the first thing I would say is we have to deal with each moment as it comes. I was just with a client earlier today, and I said sometimes the work that we need to do now is managing these current times so that we can prepare ourselves for later times. Because we have to build resilience. We have to build resilience, and we are resilient. That's why we're here, and we're still thriving and surviving. But we have to be more resilient, and we have to take each moment as it is. And we have to grab those moments of joy. Honestly, if you do not grab the moments of joy, you're going to find yourself even more depleted than you are now. And moments of joy means a nap here, going outside and catching some sunlight here, walking the dog here, getting your feet rubbed here, doing your hair here. But it's going to be pockets in these difficult times that we're going to have to grab hold to because they're just fleeting now. They're fleeting in the times that we're in, and that's just real. I don't have a magic wand to change things. I don't have a magic pill to change things. We have to maintain and manage. We're in maintenance mode right now. Honestly, that's what we are.
And I agree with you because what I'm doing now is I decided because I love to read, but I've noticed something's going on with me not wanting to read. If I'm watching, I don't watch regular television. I have Roku, but I'm watching things like, All in the Family. I'm watching, the Brady Bunch, things like that I remember in my childhood that was fun. Yeah. And I'm also, what I decided to do was I have a mason jar, Dr. Ebony. And what I'm doing using my mason jar is there has to be something good that happens every single day. Yeah. So I'm writing down gratitude, things that are happening every day, and I'm putting it on a Post-it note, folding it up and putting it in the jar. So when things get overwhelming, like today, when things get overwhelming, I'm going back in the mason jar and I'm reading like, oh, wow, I got this. Oh, wow, this happened to me. It's sunny today. It's shining, So that's what I'm doing for me. But there's some days, and, because people perceive me as being strong and confident, and And we have those people that struggle, that their well is dry, because when you're picking up the phone to have a conversation with someone, oh, girl, please, you got this. You strong. You superwoman. And that's not the case.
I just want to kind of validate and normalize that when we're going through traumas, you will lose interest in the things that you normally enjoy. This is what it feels like to navigate crisis. And I think that it's normal. Well, I want to normalize sort of mild depression and anxiety during this time. That's what one of the symptoms of depression and anxiety is, that you lose interest in things that you no longer, that you used to enjoy. So I just want to kind of put that out to people in case people feel it's wrong with me. Nothing wrong with you. This is a symptom of what it feels like to navigate trauma, navigate crisis, and to have depression and anxiety come on the other side of that. I love that you are banking those moments. I call that like a bank. Banking those enjoyable moments, those joyous moments, banking those positive interactions, because we need that when we are trying to withdraw. When we don't have that, it's like literally drawing from an empty bank account. We're in the negative. So most of us are trying to draw on positive experiences and put on a smile and show up from work from a depleted bank account. So we have got to do things that continue to build our joy up again, or kind of bank it if we don't even have it filled up or built up. We have to bank it. And so putting notes in a mason jar is actually really good, so that you can be able to go back to it and remember what those are. We're going to have to withdraw something. We can't just keep withdrawing the fumes that we're used to running on. We got to have some tangible things. Otherwise, we're going to drive ourselves into deeper depression and anxiety.
Because I talked to my therapist about that, and she's like, no, you're not depressed. You're okay. And I said, wait a minute. Let's sit down and reevaluate this again, because I have no problems, saying, well, okay, Jackie, you're depressed, and maybe this is what needs to happen. I'm not one who's going to, shield away from the word depression or clinically depressed or whatever. I don't welcome medications, but there are occasions when you need medications, And because I'm plant-based doesn't mean I'm okay. I can take melatonin. I can take this. Sometimes you need the truck driver stuff. Yeah. You need that stuff.
Sometimes you do. Sometimes you do. Yeah, and I think about depression like on a scale, about all disorder or kind of label for what we're dealing with on a scale, on a continuum. So you have 0 to 10 on this continuum, right? When we get to the end where it's disrupting our daily functioning, disrupting our quality of life at a significant level, that's when we enter the disordered range of things. But we most certainly can feel depressed on the lower end of things and it not meet clinical criteria for disorder. So we can be anxious and we can have anxiety. It doesn't mean we have an anxiety disorder. We can be depressed. It doesn't mean that we have major depressive disorder. So that's the thing that I want to kind of help us understand too, on just a common knowledge level, is that it kind of ranges on a continuum. And when it starts to significantly disrupt your functioning, you're entering a clinical range where this could be diagnosable. But most of us, if you've gone through COVID and you're telling me that you're A-okay, I'm worried about you. But what are the mild things that many of us are experiencing? And a lot of us are experiencing mild depression. A lot of us are experiencing a lot of anxiety. This is really normal when you're navigating trauma. And we have to normalize us being reactive to trauma, because I think that one thing that Black people especially do is that we're always okay. Oh, no, I'm fine. Oh, no, I'm fine. Oh, no, I'm fine. And you might be fine to a certain extent, but we have to normalize not being fine and being affected in a way that actually requires us to do something about it. Because if we're fine, we never have to change anything. But you can't go through this where you kind of did social unrest, COVID at the same time. I live in Texas. We just had a winter storm that we weren't prepared to deal with. How can you just be, I'm fine? Yeah.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to hit the hot button, but I'm going to say it because this is how I feel. I don't want to hear pray it away. Yeah. I don't want to hear that.
Now, you said it, not me.
With all respect to people watching, to all respect, I believe in God. I believe, yes, you can pray, but you still have to pray. You have to do the work. Mm-hmm. You have to do the work. So I don't want people, I'm just putting this disclaimer out here. I don't want people to just think, I'm going to read the Bible, read a couple of verses, and it's going to be okay when you're still depressed, or because, I have a friend whose cousin basically was suffering from PTSD and I think they were bipolar as well. And because they couldn't go outside because of COVID, when you weren't supposed to go outside, they committed suicide.
Yeah.
And what I hate hearing, especially in the Black community, oh, they weak. They, only weak people. No, I'm telling you, we got to change this narrative. You know what I'm saying? So Dr. Ebony, I want you to speak to that because it breaks my heart when I was hearing these comments, and I'm like, okay, we got to change it. So, you're in this field. Can you please address that?
Yeah, I think that some people take on that narrative and explanation because it's protective to them. Because here's what happens when things happen that don't make sense to us. The brain does not like incomplete pictures. It does not like an incomplete story. So we will make it up in our mind, whatever we need to make up for that to make sense. And sometimes we will insert information to just help the puzzle become complete. The puzzle piece is completely not fitting, but we will press it down and make it fit just so we will have a complete puzzle. So when somebody takes their life by suicide, people are thinking, oh my God, or somebody takes their life and dies by suicide, people think, oh my God, they were weak. That's your brain trying to make sense of a senseless situation because you, one, can understand that somebody would do that. And two, when we say that they were weak, it puts them further out of proximity than us so that we can be protected from that. Because if it's too close to us, then it's scary. And that means that if that person did it, then that must be something that I can do. It is absolutely scary to think that I have the ability to take my own life.
Yes.
If I make it a weak thing, then I absolve myself of that being something that I would ever do to myself. Or if I make that a them thing, then I absolve myself of that being something that would ever happen to me. So it's almost like if I created us versus them scenario, then it keeps me protected and I don't ever have to go there and deal with that stuff, or I don't ever have to deal with that ever being my reality. So I think we do that a lot. And we kind of are trying to make sense of something. And so you'll oftentimes hear white people die by suicide. No, Black people are dying by suicide all the time, and they have been since the beginning of time.
And again, we're talking about the pandemic because now when you're admitted in the hospital, whether you're giving birth or having minor surgery, you want to have that advocate with you because you're sedated, you're under, and you can't even have that to see these women giving birth or to see someone going to having COVID and they cannot have anyone. I mean, so I was watching this one television show that I love watching now. It's called The Resident. Resident, y'all need to reach out and sponsor this show. But what I love about it is they're doing it. The reason I watch this one show, other than the other shows I mentioned, they're doing post-COVID. So I don't have to watch anything and I can't handle anymore. So they're going on as if life, after COVID. So that's what I found refreshing because someone told me, because I love all these medical shows, but this one deals with post-COVID. So I'm like, oh yes. So those are the things. So I'm because now I was talking about this with my siblings. I find myself reverting back to my younger self. Yeah. I'm getting coloring books and I'm reading, and there's an app in the Apple Store that when you're coloring, it plays these beautiful, relaxing, calming music. So that's what I'm listening. Last night I was coloring and I felt so accomplished. And I'm like, wow. I said, what's next on the line, Dr. Ebony? Guess what's next on the line? Guess what's next on the line?
Let me hear.
Double Dutch.
Oh, yeah. So I actually bought a jump rope. I didn't got a double Dutch jump rope. I started jumping rope again. Because you know what? A lot of us are kind of, believe it or not, this is two sides of this. A lot of us are remembering a lot of our traumas from childhood during this particular crisis. So a lot of things are coming up for people that they thought they resolved. And two, a lot of us need to tap into their childhood innocent joy because a lot of us just can't to stay in what we're dealing with now is too heavy. So we need to go back to their childhood joy and remember what that was like. I just had a colleague send me her dad sent her a picture of her when she was little and reminded her of how much joy she had because she was in such a dark place. And she was like, that helped me so much. So I encourage people, take out a picture of you as a child when you were in your joyous moments. Tap into what that innocent joy was like and find some way to get back to that. As adults, we've forgotten how to have just innocent joy. Coloring is fun. Jumping rope is fun. Go do your hair. Go play dress up. Tap back into that. Go put on some makeup. Go do something. Call your girlfriends. Get on three-way or something. But we have forgotten how to do that because we've gotten so overwhelmed with work. We're so busy creating businesses, busy taking care of families that we have forgotten how to just tap back into simple joy.
And I had mentioned a couple of years ago, well, last year, that I'm okay, working in a male dominated world, training doctors and leaving that field, coming here. And I said, you know what? I'm no longer superwoman. So I took the S off my chest. Yeah. I gave myself permission because that was too stressful, Doctor, that was too stressful. I don't want to bring home the bacon, fry in the pan, never let him forget he's a man, cook the house. I don't want to do that no more. So I said, you know what? I took the S off my chest. I kind of replaced it with the W for women are worthy. But I said, it's not a stress. It's a badge that I wear and I continually talk to women about self-care. Now more than ever, we need to do the self-care. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, because let me tell you, here's another thing that's getting on my doggone nerve. That Zoom, I'm zoomed out. Okay? I am zoomed out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it to my advantage, and I'm going to create like cocktails with sisters or something. So we drink while we're talking, having fun. So that's what I'm going to do. Deborah, I'm inviting you into that. So we want to do, that's what I'm going to create, because we can talk, we can kiki, have some fun and things like that. And just enjoy, talk about our day, not make it too heavy. And if someone needs to cry, they cry, but it's going to be a private thing, because I think that's what I miss. I miss that. And I just miss the human contact, especially if you're a social person and you like to hug people. Yeah. So my question to you, Dr. Ebony, what is it that, you gave us some tips. What is it that you find that people are struggling with the most? And what tips would you like to recommend?
Yeah, so I find that people are struggling the most with self-care. People are struggling with taking care of themselves, managing their emotions. So when I say self-care, I don't mean the kind of fluffy self-care, going to take a shower, get your nails, but I mean really dealing with ourselves and learning how to sit with our emotions. A lot of us are struggling with that. A lot of us don't know how to do that. So sometimes that does lead people to kind of feel so overwhelmed that they want to take their lives, or they feel extremely depressed because we're having to deal with so much at one time. It just feels like a wave. So what I think people kind of need to do in this moment is learn how to sit with difficult emotions in ways that leave them still being effective. At the beginning of COVID, you see that a lot of people were eating their emotions, or a lot of people were kind of just drinking their emotions away. We need to learn how to sit with our emotions and not make things worse for ourselves. So I actually created a tool called My Therapy Cards. And I don't know if you have a picture of them.
Yes, I saw that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I created My Therapy Cards, which is the card deck created. It's the first card deck created for Black women and girls to be able to deal with some stuckness that we have in the areas of mindset, habits, and triggers. So it allows us to dig into ourselves and see what's blocking us being able to show up as our full selves. Like, what are those emotions that we feel that we can't sit with? What are the things that we can't say no to? Because a lot of us are still, even in the moment where we don't have a lot to give, overextending ourselves. A lot of us are still saying yes, 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 yes. I'm guilty of that myself, but not setting boundaries, not, continue to do the same thing over and over again, even though we know it's not working for us. Mindset issues about prioritizing ourselves, about what it means to be successful and productive. A lot of those things, and we really need to get to the root of that stuff so that we can begin to kind of release ourselves from a lot of those things and process and notice our patterns. That's what I would say I think people should do now, is really, in the time that we have to spend with ourselves, really dig into some of your patterns and start to correct some of that stuff. Learn how to sit with some difficult emotions and adopt some new coping skills, diversify your coping skills. One of the reasons that people say that they can't stop emotional eating is because they haven't diversified coping skills enough. They haven't gotten a range of coping skills that actually work, and that actually tap into the emotion they're trying to eat away or drink away.
Yeah, because I don't want it to be because I want people to take away and possibly for you to get some additional clients and buy the tools that you have, because it's so important. And I don't think people realize how important it is, because most women put themselves on the bottom of the category or priority list. Because I was watching something with some, NFL wives. And I'm listening to them and how I'm like, wait a minute, you have the money that you can get a nanny, you can get this. And listening to these women talk about how they don't do anything. It's just the children, the husband, the children, the husband. So one lady actually said that she's going through depression. And they all looked at her like, what do you mean you're going through depression? We're in the same boat. We're not. And we have to. I don't know what it is we need to do, Dr. Ebony, and I really need your help with this. And even if I have to do more shows on this, what do we need to do to let the African-American community understand it's okay to use the word depression? It's okay to say, I feel sad. It's okay not to be okay. Yeah. What do you think that we need to do? Or people like me who have a platform where we're talking anywhere from depression, bipolar, to anything, because I think we talk about cancer, we talk about this, but I don't think we shed enough light into mental health.
Yeah, this is a layer. This is a very complex and very deeply layered question. I think that one, very simple, we gotta stop. We gotta continue to have the conversation and continue to label and call it out by name. Depression and anxiety is real. PTSD is real. So many of us will have PTSD when this is over. So I'm gonna give you some stats. I was on a talk and I was researching. So in June, from January to June of 2019, 1 in 10 adults said that they were struggling with symptoms related to depression and anxiety. From March to June of 2020, not even the first 2 months, from March to June of 2020, 1 in 3 adults said that they were dealing with symptoms related to depression and anxiety. So we've got to continue to normalize and allow people to have permission to label things as depression and anxiety. It may not be major depression or it may not be anxiety disorder, but a lot of us are anxious, we're stressed, we have PTSD, we have acute stress disorder. We are struggling with a lot. A lot of us are struggling with personality disorders that are going unresolved. A lot of us are struggling with borderline bipolar, a lot of things that are just going unresolved and under the radar, because typically in our communities, we've brushed it aside and said, girl, you don't have that. We've made it so stigmatized to call people crazy. So we've got to watch our language. We've got to watch how we include people in the conversation who say that they're struggling and have some of these symptoms. We've got to be able to continue to pour our resources and to continue to talk about it on our platforms. That's why I intentionally call the cards my therapy cards, because I want us to get used to therapy rolling off our tongues and us taking up that space, because that definitely belongs to us as well. So we've got to continue to have conversation, watch how we treat people who say that they are experiencing something, watch how we validate them, watch what we say, because what we will say is, and we even say this to children, oh, you don't have anything to be depressed about, you're not. We have to watch that, because kids are taking their lives by suicide,
yes,
are dying by suicide so very often. We have to watch what we think means that somebody is depressed and anxious. Oh, girl, you got money. What you need to be depressed about? Oh, girl, you got a man. What you need to be depressed about? We need to watch what we say to people, because just because that is our fantasy does not mean that that's somebody else's fantasy. So before we know it, we can shut down and make people feel invalidated, and they never want to say anything. And so they feel crazy and marginalized. And so now they're suffering in silence. So there's so much we can do. And one of the greatest things we can do is just to be open and receptive when people do say they're struggling. How can I help you? What is it that you need from me? How can I be supportive? What resources do you need? What role can I play in your life to help you get through this? Whether they're 9, whether they have $1 million, whether they have $0, whether they have a man, whether they have a girlfriend, whether they're single, we need to be asking these questions.
And I think that you brought up a point, because so often single people, just because you're married, oh girl, you got a man, and it may not have anything to do with the man. You have to understand that you're operating as a single unit in a couple. So I'm not identified by my husband, but again, we have to, I love that we have to make sure that we're normalizing it. And it's almost like back in the day with AIDS, or, remember back in the day, folks would call it the sugar, or they won't call it diabetes, that kind of thing. We have to make it okay. And that's why I tell people, I have no problem telling people I have a therapist. Yes. I see her, because if I wasn't seeing her, y'all would not want to know, what I would be like.
I'm a psychologist with a therapist. Like, would you be a surgeon who needed surgery and say, no, I'm not going to go get surgery? You would not. So we have a lot of stigma around mental health, and rightfully so, because the mental health field has not always been welcoming and kind to Black people and people of color. So we still carry that stigma, and we can begin to work some things out individually and within our families around it being okay. We do that too in the mental health field by having more people who look like us there. And the mental health field has got to do better with the systems that they've set up that keep Black people out of the spaces of occupying therapy, because the tests are crazy, and that's a whole nother story. But we've got to deal with the barriers that exist for people of color, not only receiving therapy, but also people of color occupying therapist roles.
And also, Miss Deborah said, many of these feelings may come from childhood issues that they have never addressed, and I think that's true, because I want you to address it as a clinician, because I know, as a licensed person, because I know for me, prior to this, I was living my life ho hum, but I felt something wasn't right, because what I've done, because I've gone through sex trafficking, I kind of blocked it for so many years. Then I realized something wasn't working for me. And then going to therapy and having her unblocking that and pouring out all that stuff, because subconsciously, yes, I blocked it, but my mind, how that works. And I'm like, oh my God. So it started to with therapy, it started to come out, more and more things would come out, because I know I had that closet, because I know how to compartmentalize things very well. And I'm learning not to do that as often. When you have the emotion, let it come, let it, ride the waves, because when you hold it, Lord knows, heart attack, stress, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm learning that. So what would you say when Miss Deb said many of these feelings may come from childhood issues that they may have never been addressed before?
I would say Miss Deb, she's absolutely correct. A lot of us are in therapy now for a lot of things that happened in our childhood. Our childhood are formative years. That is when we are navigating this world, trying to figure out what this world is, trying to figure out who we are. So a lot of things that happen to us help us to shape how we see this world. That becomes the way that we navigate the world. So if we experience trauma, we're going to continue to navigate the world through those lenses now. That's been implanted in us. So a lot of us are trying to undo a lot of the things that we learned when we were children, because those experiences help to shape who we are now and got us into some situations that we're now trying to correct that has caused long-lasting consequences for us. And so a lot of us are trying to deal with that. Relationships, those formative relationships are key, depending on how they were. If they were welcoming, they were invalidating. A lot of us are trying to figure out how now to feel validated in relationships, ask for what we want in relationships. I grew up in Mississippi, and I grew up deep South, and one of my teachings was be seen, not heard. So now as an adult, I'm having to find my voice. I'm having to be okay with taking up space. I'm having to be okay with not being exactly who people thought I was going to be or who I was groomed to be. So a lot of us are still navigating and finding our voices from that, because we kind of are shifting and we're having to reconcile those things. And a lot of us are still trying to work through some of those traumas that we still have that are there, that have somehow impacted our relationships, impacted how we see ourselves, impacted our body image. Like a lot of this stuff is rooted in childhood and earlier experiences.
And, I have one of my friends, we were talking about this today because of this whole COVID stuff and how many people we know have passed from it, where I told her, we both said, we can't let this paralyze us, because there's so many people, as many people have died, there's so many people that recovered. And of course, they're going to have lingering effects and stuff. But I told her today, we can't get paralyzed by this, because it's almost like we're focusing on the people that are passing. And of course, we've had someone close pass recently, but we're like, what is going on here? What is going on? So you don't want, and then we were talking about vacation. Thank you, Tammy. We were talking about vacation. And we were talking about, okay, you don't want to get on the plane. You don't want to do this. And we're like, we have to use common sense. We have to do social distancing. We have to do using the sanitizing. We get that. We have to wear the mask, but we can't allow this to paralyze us, keep us in our homes where we're not going to do anything and just worry you to death. We cannot allow this. And I'm talking to more and more people, and you have clients like that as well, but we have to come to some sort of an agreement. That's why I said I want to do the cocktails on a Friday night. Let's bring out our cocktails. I don't care if you get pissy drunk. Let's just have a good time. Like I said, I'm doing the double Dutch. I'm, the jump. I'm getting my groove on, you know, and I'm talking about that way, you know, getting my coloring book and coloring. I don't like journaling, never liked it. So that's why I have the mason jar. And I find right now for me, I can't focus anymore. I'm all over the place. So I finally read a meditation. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But because the mason jar and what I'm doing, that's how I'm still getting the message across, but in a shorter version of it.
Yeah.
So since what we're talking about, and we want to include, especially African Americans, that it's okay to seek therapy, go to the doctor. Now we can do the Zooming, you know, or whatever platform they want to do. You're hearing all of this because you're the perfect person for me to ask this question. A lot of people are, I don't want to use the word dumping. You're there as a listening ear to tell them what they need to do. What are you doing with all of this? How are you blocking this so it doesn't hit here? What are you doing, Dr. Ebony?
Well, sometimes it does hit, and sometimes it is hard. And I make sure that I practice what I teach. I have a therapist, and I go to therapy and I do my work. I work through my own cards. I actually take a break. I take naps. I actually set boundaries. So I know that I'll say yes to some things, but I've learned that I can. I'm going to share this with the audience because I think they need to know. Baseline functioning has decreased for all of us. So maybe in January or February of 2020, we were all at a baseline of 8, 9, or 10. Many of us are operating at a 5, 6 now and still having the expectations on ourselves that we are 8, 9s, and 10s. The only reasons we were 8, 9, and 10s is because we had the infrastructure in place. We had travel. We had girl hangouts. We had people we could go see. We could be in person. We could get filled up in those ways, but we don't have that yet. We're expecting ourselves to have the same level of output, and that's not fair on ourselves. So what I've done for myself is, what now do I expect of myself at this level of capacity? When I was at 8, 9, or 10, I could see 7 people in a day in therapy and be okay. I can only see 4. I can only see 4 people. I can't do that. I can't overdo that. Can I show up and do a live every week? In February and January of 2020, I could, but now I can't. So you have to know what your capacity is, and you have to be real with yourself. And in order to be real with yourself, you also got to get out of your perfectionistic head around what that means about you as a person. That does not mean that you are a failure. That means that your capacity has dropped because your infrastructure has changed, right? And so when we can get past that, we'll be so much more graceful and compassionate with ourselves. But many of us can't get past that because we beat ourselves up so much, which is, I need to do better. I can do more. Why haven't I done this? And we beat ourselves up so often, which is probably rooted in some other traumas. But we really need to allow ourselves to understand that we're not a failure because we can't take on what we used to. Our infrastructure has changed, and you would not expect an infrastructure that could once hold 20 pounds, once it loses its foundation, to still be able to hold 20 pounds. You would only stack on it what it can hold, right? And so we have to do the same thing to ourselves.
And, you know, I was doing this and I didn't know what it was called when you said infrastructure, because my team had sent me up to start doing, okay, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. I had to call them last week and I'm like, what in the heaven streaming show are you doing to me? And they're like, but I said, no, we got to stop this.
Yeah.
We can do show maybe Monday, definitely Monday, maybe a Tuesday. But y'all not gonna worry me to do show Monday through Friday. We're not doing that, because then it's not therapy, but then I have to hear what people are saying and the traumas they've gone through and stuff like that. So I said Monday and Tuesday and maybe occasionally a Thursday. So I said, this is what we gonna do.
Boundaries.
Let's sit down and tell me what day am I having next week. Because you're not going to tell me Saturday and Sunday I'm off. Yeah. I need to find a day that I'm not doing nothing.
That's right.
And the team was like, I'm like, yeah, I need a break. So, you know, and it's so important. So I like when you said that basically and it's not setting your expectation, lowering your expectation. It's not negative or bad in this environment, because, you know, as women, we think, you know, we got to take care of the kids. We got to do this. Listen, I told my husband the other day, I said, look, bro, you're going to have to pick up some more slack, because the wife you had before 2019 and the wife you got now. Okay?
None of us are the same. We need to act as such.
So, and I'm not up here saying like, whoo, nope. I'm like, dude, I need you to do this. And he works outside of the house. So he gave me that look. I said, I know you ain't looking at me because you work outside of the house. Because I don't care, bro, man. So he's like, okay. So I see him like, he'll do stuff. He's like, do you want this? He'll make breakfast, on Sundays more now, because before I did all of that. And I'm like, dude, I can't look like this and still try to do that.
Can't be everything. Cannot be everything.
Like I said, I'm not bringing home the bacon, slaying the bacon and making you forget like you a man. I'm not doing all of that no more. So I want to make sure I'm taking care of right now. The most important thing that we can all do is take care of us. Mm-hmm. We have to have that positive talk. And for a minute, for me, and we mentioned this earlier, it's going to be okay. Let's get through today. It's going to be okay. After a while, it gets so much saying that you feel like it ain't gonna be okay,
Yeah. And sometimes I've allowed myself to be more present, focused with my answer. And people ask me, how are you doing? I said, I'm okay this week. I'm okay this week. That gives me permission to not be okay every single week and every single day, right? I'm okay this week. Check with me. Next week, it may be a different story, but this week is good. This week is starting off good, or this week, I'm just okay. And many of us have got to get comfortable with saying we're just okay and we're not great, because it also allows us to garner more compassion for ourselves too. It's like, okay, I feel better, but I'm okay. Because it really does take the burden off of you to have to show up and perform and be happy and put on a face and dance for people when you're like, I'm okay. The times are not okay. Like, I remember the summer when all this stuff was happening and social unrest, and people were asking me, and I'm okay, no, I am not okay. I am not okay seeing a Black man killed on TV. I am not okay with a Black woman being in her bed killed while she's asleep. I am not okay with that, and that's okay. And I will manage. I'm managing, but I'm not okay.
And again, I want to reiterate this, where we, in our community, I don't care if you're sick, I don't care if your husband leaving you, your wife leaving you, your children, go pray. Mm-hmm. Prayer is good, but it's not the only answer. We have, and I know I'm getting a lot of emails about this when he goes on YouTube, but I'm strong. I got this. So we have to. It's not being disrespectful to whomever you pray to, God, Jesus, Buddha. It's not being disrespectful, but it's not the only thing. Yeah. And we have to understand that there's tools out there. We need to equip ourselves with tools and equip ourselves, because right now, I can't deal with no negative Nellies. I cannot. I blocked a lot of people on my phone. So I got an email. So this lady's like, did you block me? And I said, no, I didn't mean to block you. You were one of the people that got blocked unnecessarily. Because right now I am not I don't have the bandwidth right now to deal with negativity. You know what I'm saying? And I'm setting those boundaries. I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. So for me, just having, and again, I understand you can't be positive all the time. And I like when you said you're not doing okay now. It's not okay that you're seeing this. It's not okay that you're seeing that. But sometimes I see people are still not present. And I want to be intentionally present, because sometimes I did a little thing where someone said, how you doing, Jack? Yes, I'm not doing good. And they just kept talking. I said, did you hear what I just said? And they're like, I'm so used to you saying you're okay. I said, doggone it, I am not okay. So I am choosing to, like, if I'm talking to you, I don't want to text, because I think this is a pivotal moment before the world. I think this is our new normal, because even if they say the COVID has gone down, how many people are going to go out and just hug and kiss people without? So it's going to take a while. This is our new normal. But when I say I am so intentional with the people that are in my circle, giving them their flowers now, loving them, supporting them, and, them and myself. So it's just, I don't know. And someone in your field, I can't even begin to know what you go through and the stuff that you hear. So I wanted the Women Are Worthy show, we really want to thank you for what you're doing, because you could do other things. But the fact that you want not just Black women, you want them to understand, let's change the narrative. You're looking to change not just their lifestyle, but generational, because maybe the person who's seeing you didn't believe in therapy. And now you're showing them it's okay. Therapy's okay.
Yeah. And I love that. So thank y'all for this platform. And we have to know as women that it is okay for us to allow ourselves to just kind of not have to be superwoman all the time. And we need a space where we can find respite. We need a space where we can recharge and we can just kind of let ourselves down and let community build us up. We need and we deserve that. So this platform is great for that. And I know the women in your audience kind of definitely agree. So we need to, we are worthy whether we are working hard, or whether we are resting. Like, seriously, we are. And we have to take care of ourselves in order for us to be sustainable, in order for us to be in this for the long haul. A lot of us are acting like we're in a race and we're not. And that's because a lot of us are still in survival mode. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us have never allowed ourselves just to feel rest because a lot of us don't even know what that feels like. So allowing ourselves to just take rest, I think, is very helpful. And that's definitely what I want to leave people with.
And think about it, before people were running. You didn't know much about your kids. You're spending 10 hours at work. If you're traveling, 12 hours, hour go and hour back in 8 hours. And then your kids, so now you're getting to know who your children are. And one of my friends, she said, I can talk about this with you. Her daughter called me and she was crying. And I'm like, why are you crying? She says, because at night, my mommy's crying because she lost some friends in COVID. Her daughter's 8. And she lost some friends for COVID, and I don't know what to do with my mommy because she's crying and she doesn't want me to know she's crying, but I hear her at night crying. And what do I do? 8-year-old is asking me this, and I'm like, it broke my heart. And I wouldn't tell my girlfriend not to cry, but just to have a conversations, because these were things she didn't want to tell her daughter, having conversation that someone passed and yada, yada, yada. But kids are smarter than we give them credit for. Yeah. So for those moms out there or fathers out there who are experiencing the depression and sometimes we're forgetting the kids, what advice or tips would you give parents who have children?
I love that question. Definitely bring them into the conversation and see how they're doing and really ask them from an honest place, like, how have you changed? Because think about us as adults are struggling with these changes and transition. We've had a life full of opportunities to learn skills to get through negative times, to get through difficult times. We're talking about kids having to deal with the same exact things that we're dealing with, and they don't have but 8 years before them to learn anything. And they didn't find 3 years if you really want to know, right? So they are having to navigate the same difficulties that we are with 3 years under their belt. Ask children how they're doing. Ask children how affected they are. Give them words to describe their emotions. Are you depressed? Do you feel sad? Do you feel lonely? Do you feel scared? Do you feel confused? Do you feel joy? Like, let's begin to have conversations around emotion and label them so that kids can build their language to kind of communicate what it is that they are experiencing, right? Allow kids to tell you what's your worry right now. What are you feeling in your body? So if kids don't have language, we have feelings in our body. So we call this somatic sensory, right? So where do you feel sadness? Do you feel it in your chest? Do you feel it in your stomach? Do you feel it in your back? Because when we allow our children to identify where pain feels in their bodies, we're connecting their mind to their bodies. And that's where a lot of us have become disconnected from, because a lot of trauma has disconnected us from our bodies and we're living solely in our heads, or some of us are living solely in our bodies, but we're not making that connection. When I'm sad, I feel pain in my chest, and I also feel pain in my back. When I'm stressed, I carry tension in my stress, and I feel tight through my hips, right? So I know if I know where these things are affecting me in my bodies, then I can then identify what movement is going to help me move this in and through, right? If I don't ever know that, I can't ever find the right stretch. So you go to therapy, and your therapist tell you, oh, girl, you just need to stretch. But if she says, where do you feel that in your body? Then you know I need to do some chest openings. If she says, I feel this in my hips, then you know you need to do some hip openings. If you feel it in your back, you need to do some stretches that help you elongate your back, or you need to go to a chiropractor. All of these things, once we're able to identify it, we can then begin to move through. Because a lot of people don't know that a lot of our traumas and emotions are lodged in our bodies. So we also need to be teaching kids this too, so that they don't become 40 now just knowing that emotions get lodged in your hips. But we can begin to do stretches with them. We can begin to let them know, do you feel it in your chest? Do you feel it in your stomach? Do you feel it in your head? Because right when COVID started, I can tell you every single appointment I went to, all of my clients had migraines. because this is the way that it was presenting itself. This is the way that stress was presenting and manifesting itself. So asking kids, do you feel pain behind your eyes? Do you feel headache? Are you clenching your teeth at night? Has your appetite changed? Has your stool changed? Has your digestive system changed? Are you having nightmares? Are you sweating in your sleep? All of these things that we're feeling, we can ask them if they're experiencing the same thing. Do you cry? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling lonely? Yeah.
And I haven't had a good cry, you know, and I'm like, it's almost like I'll feel the tear right there, but it won't come out. So I need to do that guttural cry. I need to go out in the woods with the teepee, okay, and burn some. You know, I'm telling you, that's what I feel like I need to do because I'm trying, but it won't come, and you don't want to force it. Now, let's say Biden is watching the show or his people who's in health. And they decided, you know what, I like this Dr. Ebony. She makes a lot of sense and we love what she's doing. If they were to give you, let's say $30 million when it comes to mental health, what 3 things would you like to target or push the initiative? Now, mind you, whatever you're doing, it would be passed. Okay, the senators and everyone's all on board, but what things would you do with that money?
I know the answer right away. 1, I will make testing more accessible for people of color. So, because therapists is one thing for us to say Black people need to go to therapy. We need therapists to see these Black people, right? So I will make testing more cost efficient because you're asking grad students to pay $600 for a test that we most times don't pass on the first round. So we need funding and we need change to make those tests more accessible and easily kind of navigated for people of color, therapists who are trying to get through that. We need the funding for the school so that they can get into graduate school programs to get their licensing. So funding around grad school and the licensing process, I will lump together as one. Then we make therapy more accessible. Therapy is too expensive for everyday people to be able to pay for therapy, especially with insurance and without insurance. So we need to make mental health more accessible and we need to cut costs around what people are paying out of pocket to see therapists. We also need to decrease barriers and access. If you are a person who is in Ohio right now and you're like, oh, I like that Dr. Ebony lady, you can't see me because I'm only licensed in Texas. So you got to go find somebody in Ohio. And if there's nobody who looks like you that you want to see, then guess what? You just don't have anybody who looks like you that you want to see. So we've got to decrease some of these barriers that make it difficult for folks to reach out and get help, especially across state lines, right? So we've got to make therapy or therapy tools more accessible to people, whether they're state lines or not. So those are my 3 areas that I would definitely target: access, accessibility, and licensing.
And, you know, just like when you have traveler's insurance, that's what we need to do with therapy, because maybe I want to see someone who looks like me and I'm liking what she's talking about, Dr. Ebony. So let me go ahead and make an appointment, you know, and I think for me, I've always said when it comes to healthcare, we need to somehow implement in our healthcare where, okay, just like if you're working or whatever the case may be, somehow gyms should be free. Yeah. Okay, we need to figure that out, you know, mental health, because I think we focus more on the reactive. We don't focus more on the preventative. Yes, just like, okay, here's a perfect example. What I believe that they should do now, we're getting into the nitty gritty. We have preventative care. You have to take your PAP, your mammogram and all that. Why don't we put that into, all that into preventative care? Because if you think about it, you know, if you go to therapy and, you know, you're maintaining or you're finding out the issue before it gets worse. Mm-hmm. So I think that should be something that insurance companies should include. We should have, that should be part of preventative chiropractic care, going to yoga, or if not yoga, meditation, going to the gym. I know they have these things for seniors, silver sneakers or whatever, but why wait till when someone's 65 or 70 when that doesn't make sense? Or if someone has, now they're doing the insurance companies where if your baseline, if your blood pressure is normal, you'll probably get $35 back or a pedometer. Why wait there? Let's start when you sign on that you can go, let's give you free 10 therapy sessions, but whoever, the insurance company will pay for it. Because what the employers need to understand, and I challenge employers out there to do this, a happy employee is a productive employee.
Absolutely.
Because and then they would take less sick days. If we could have that, just one employer to step up to say, healthcare, this is what we're going to do, mammogram, all that stuff, that's preventative. But what we're going to do is we're going to pay for mental health, therapy sessions. We're going to pay for if you go to meditation and things like that. That's what I think. For me, when I was working, I'd rather them cut down just a little of my sick days and give me that kind of stuff, because then I wouldn't have to use my sick day. Now they have something that's called, I think, mental health day. And I'm like, because my girlfriend's in Houston and she works for a company and they call it mental health day. Miss Deb said so many people need these services. That is and so many people don't even know they need the services.
Absolutely. People don't know that they exist. And this is where we need to do more as clinicians and people in the mental health field. We have to meet people where they are and let people know that these services are available. I am loving all the therapists that I see on Instagram these days, because now people are having conversations with therapists every day that they didn't even know existed. So there are so many of us, and this platform actually helps us to kind of become more visible, but we have to continue to do our due diligence to let people know that therapy is available, how to access it, how to contact somebody, how to use your insurance to get it paid for, how to navigate EAP, all those things. Those are things that we can provide to the general public around how to get those services.
Mr. Chris B says, in Germany, doctors can prescribe a massage. Deborah says, massage therapy is great for me. She has CP, cerebral palsy, in my right side, and I try to do what helps me. And I do get massages, and I know I was sinking down in depression when my masseuse was massaging me, and I got aggravated. Got aggravated because I couldn't focus. So, I mean, and I think some of the things that they do in Europe, we need to implement in Georgia. In the United States. We definitely need to do that, because if you think about it, it's going to cut down on, I think anyway, it's going to minimize a lot of the things that we're going through. So, Dr. Ebony, can you please give us your contact information for those who are in Texas? Unfortunately, I need you guys to make sure when you're the next time you're voting for your state representative, we need to bring this up to our state representative. We want to go to we want to be able to pick up the phone or call Dr. Ebony, and our insurance company will pay for that, and then of course, if we pay for it now, we get reimbursed, but why not see if our insurance can pay for that?
We need to be advocating for that. We need to be advocating for massages. We need to be advocating for exercise equipment. We need to be advocating for all of that stuff, because all of that stuff is health related.
And I like that, because I said I need to get a treadmill, because sometimes I don't want to get up and go to the gym because my vibration is low, and I don't want to bring other people down because of my vibration. And I said, if I had my treadmill, because I am not going to use my treadmill as a place to hang my clothes. Right. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. So, it would have been great. You're right. I love that point about exercise equipment. And
to be well.
Mm-hmm. And if they have to put something on that, okay, we're going to pay for your treadmill. How much do you weigh? And within 5 or 6 months, if you haven't lost weight, we're taking the treadmill back, and maybe we're going to charge you a 10% of what the overall treadmill. Add something to it, because right now we're nothing against smokers, but you want our BMIs to be okay, but you have a smoker who's working at your company, but God forbid 2 heart attacks, and your company's going to change out insurance company, and then the deductible. Oh, that's a whole nother show. Sorry. Who saw that was a whole nother show. So I like that. Chris B, so you said in Germany, doctors can prescribe massage. So basically the insurance company is paying for that? That's what I gather you're saying? So I'll wait for his response. So please tell us how to connect with you, because trust me, everybody knows somebody in Texas. Yeah. Texas is that place, Texas and New York. We all know somebody in Texas. So give us some contact information.
Yeah, so you can find me online if you want to hit me up on social media. My name is Dr. Ebony online across all social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. If you want to go to my website is drebony.com. And if you're interested in exploring the therapy cards, you can find those at mytherapycards.com.
Well, you have this soothing manner to you because, girl, I was about to take off my jacket, lay down and suck my thumb. Can't remember last time I was sucked my thumb, but I felt like sucking my thumb because I'm like, I'm at home right now. I'm feeling good because I'm telling you, my stress, I get it here. Mm-hmm. And I also get it in my shoulders. Where when I would go to my chiropractor, he's like, "Oh my God, it's like a block of ice."
Yeah.
And now I'm doing better because I'm doing these stretches I'm finding on TikTok, stretches that he showed me. I'm doing hip stretches because I'm constantly sitting down and, getting the massage and things like that. So I'm starting to, I feel like I'm coming out of the cloud or this dark cloud. But then again, something will knock you back down. But at the end of the day, we have no choice but to get back up.
That's right.
No choice. So
to get back up.
And so again, I think what you're doing is phenomenal. You're doing great work. I love your therapy cards. I want to talk more about that to other people. So for them to know, to get that, because I think we need that right now. And also, if you don't have a bike, see if your park are renting bikes and maybe go out once a week, ride your bike, because when the weather, when it's permitted, go out and ride your bike. Because I have my bike, but sometimes I don't feel like loading it on the car and all that stuff. So I'll go to the park and ride. But like I said, you've made me feel so much better. You saved my therapist a session tonight, okay? You saved her a session. Because I spoke with her on Saturday, but because what we do now is I maintain. So she's like, "You're fine. You don't need, And I says, no. Your car needs oil. You need to change your oil every 3,000 to 4,000 miles. I don't want to be later on when we have to be reactive, when I'm like, oh my God, I want to be proactive. So here's what's going on with me. What do you think I need to do? You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm working on. And I just love women like you, what you're doing. You're helping people, you're supporting people. And I want you to know, please make sure your well doesn't run dry. Make sure you're taking time for self-care. No means no, because Dr. Ebony, we can't have nothing happen to you, Dr. Ebony. We need you. We need you.
Definitely.
We need you because we know you out there helping the world now, Dr. Ebony, but we need you, Dr. Ebony. Okay? So without further ado, if you want to join our tribe, please subscribe to the Women Are Worthy Network on YouTube. The Women Are Worthy Network on YouTube. So if you want to join our tribe, please subscribe. We want to get more subscribers. We have our interns and our mentees that's helping us, and we're just doing phenomenal things. We got some great shows coming on. I'm going to put it out there, y'all. We have a CC Pennington. She's going to be on our show. So we're going to have some great folks. And I think that's in March or whatever, because I think we're booked up until April or May. But that's why they want to give me more shows to do, Dr. Ebony, because they're telling me I can't just do one show. I need to do 3 more shows. No, don't love that. Mama needs some rest.
But that means that business is good. So I do.
Yes. I like the way you think. Yeah. Chris B said you can buy a regular mountain bike, 10-speed, and buy with stilts for the bike. So you can buy a regular mountain bike and you can buy the stilts to make it a stationary bike. I never knew that. Did you know that, Dr. Ebony? Oh, I guess I was the only one that didn't know this. But anyway. Okay, y'all don't have to show me how smart y'all are, but it's all good. Yes, I said CC, Mr. Crispy. So without further ado, we want everyone to please make sure you sanitize, you social distance, make sure that you're masking, and please, self-care is so important. And therapy, finding a therapist, finding a clinician is part of your self-care. So good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us.